Rich Miller, STACK Cybersecurity. We're in Livonia, so we're a local Michigan-based managed service provider and a managed security service provider. So we're an MSP and an MSSP. I'm going to fumble my way through this a little bit because of how the screens are laid out. But today we're here to talk about cybersecurity careers. And mostly what I want to talk about is what does it take to not only just get a job, what does it take to get the interview, right? That's the hardest part. I'm sure all of you, or most of you know that. I know it because I look at all of your resumes all the time. And you know, it's a challenge for me just as much as it's a challenge for you. So we want to try and share what we know, what we think, or what I think with you, and try and help you be more successful and give you a better foot forward. So about STACK Cybersecurity, so I founded the company 20 years ago this year, and we've started in Florida, and I was remote living in Tennessee, and I used to be an IT support person for another company, and that company sold their business, and after they sold their business, about a year or so went by, and a lot of my old clients called me and said, "This is just not working, will you please help us?" And so the first lesson there is relationships are everything. You have to work towards relationships. That's what got me this opportunity. I was working for another company, and I think maybe about STACK is a good place to talk about that. So when that happened, I was working for a company called Hospital Corporation of America, really large healthcare provider, headquartered in Nashville, but with regional centers throughout the country. And when I interviewed for that job, so that role was a senior application engineer. I was probably about 4 years into my career at that point. I was in class doing what you're doing for 9/11, so 2001, and in 2005 I got this offer for this other job. So I'm interviewing for this job, and it's a senior application engineer. The department that I was interviewing for was software based, right? So they were a document management system, and I was a specialist in the software. I knew a lot about it. But they didn't know a lot about infrastructure, and that's what they were missing. So they had application people that didn't know anything about IT. They just know an application, right? It's a singular focus. This is what I'm going to try and provoke you to not have. You have to be more expansive than having a singular focus. It's hard for me to hire somebody when they only have a singular focus. And so when I interviewed, they sent me to a different department called Wintel, which is Windows and Intel put together, right? It was the infrastructure. Literally interviewed in the data center, where their data center is probably the size of this entire building, just for their own stuff. Big company. And so this guy's looking at my resume, and I don't remember what my resume looked like at that time, but like, for example, I have SQL Server on there. Everyone know what SQL Server is? So I have SQL Server on there. He says, "Oh, you know SQL Server, what port does it use?" I'm like, 1433. He's like, "Okay." And this went on, this barrage of questions. I'm talking really hard questions. This molded how I interview to this day, 20 years later. I answered all those questions. I did extremely well. He told my future boss, he said, "If you don't take them, we will." So that's the best result I could have gotten. And the point of the story is everything that I had on my resume that I told them I knew, and I knew it well. A lot of times what I see, mostly with students, is in your classroom and in your training, you get exposure to something, let's say DNS. If you put that you know DNS, I'm going to quiz you on DNS. And when you miss 5 of the 5 questions or 4 of the 5 questions, you're really taking a chunk out of your credibility for the rest of the interview, right? So this is what I want to kind of teach you in this process. So that's a little bit about me and a little bit about STACK Cyber. It's how we started. The clients that I took care of in that were in that acquisition, I grew my business, and we just took off from there. So now we've got about 20 employees. We support a few thousand endpoints, and we've been doing it for 20 years. Right? This is just a little bit about me. I guess this was the slide for my story. So. It's been rewarding. IT has been rewarding. IT is a fantastic career. And I'll add one more thing to this. The thing about IT is you're all in school, and that's great. And you're all learning, that's great. But you don't have to spend the next 15 years in school, right? In IT, you need to get the job and start getting experience, because you're going to learn at a rate that's well beyond what you can learn from books in the classroom. You have to get hands on keyboard. You have to get butts in seat. You have to get time in seat to get the experience doing some of the stuff that we're doing. So I want to talk about how a resume is screened. Does everyone have their resume here? Who brought the resume? Show of hands. Couple? Okay. When I look at a resume, the first thing I want to see, I want to get to the technical information. I don't need a story. I'm a small business, so not all of your opportunities are going to be small businesses. Sometimes you may have HR departments hiring companies that are doing this stuff for another business, and they may want to read all of that stuff. I'm a business owner, and I'm very technical, so I go fast, right? And the last thing I want is to read a giant story about nothing, and that's how I look at it. I don't process a lot of words and just read just to get to know you. I don't need to get to know you. What I need to do is I need to know whether or not it's worth it for us to meet, and then I can get to know you, right? So the first thing I'm going to look at is your alphabet soup. Does everybody know what alphabet soup is? No? So I had a resume on my presentation that I wish I could show you. But alphabet soup is when you look at my resume, I know DHCP, I know DNS, I know Hyper-V, I know VMware, I know BGP, I know TCP/IP, I know all of these other stuff. We call all of that alphabet soup, right? So I'm going to look at your alphabet soup, and then I'm going to understand what you've had exposure and experience to. And from there, we'll start quizzing you on that stuff. So the idea is you need to get experience doing the things that make up IT, which will parlay into cybersecurity, and be able to speak to that. And so the question is, how do you do that when you're in school and don't have a job? And right, it's the Vulcan death loop. People don't hire people with no experience, but the people with no experience can't get experience if they don't get hired, right? So what do I look for when I'm screening these resumes for entry-level candidates that don't have years of experience? I'll tell you, the number one thing that I love to see, home lab, right? And you can do home lab, you can do virtual labs in the cloud, bless you. And there's servers and these resources are available a lot of times free for students. You have to take advantage of that stuff. So what I'm going to look for is I'm going to look for the fact that you've built a home lab and that you've tried stuff. So when I was doing this, again, a long time ago, I'm old now, I had this dream of building an environment in my room. I had this big U desk that I bought at Staples, and I had like 7 different computer monitors on my thing, big monitor. You guys don't even know what this stuff is, right? The big CRT looks like a TV. I used to have 7 of those on my desk. And so my dream was I wanted to have a network where I had a Windows server, this is server 2000, a Linux server, a Windows NT, and a Mac server, Macintosh network. And I wanted all of them to communicate with each other and move files back and forth with each other. And it was tough, right? But I did it. And then once I did it, I was like, okay, that's done. I just dismantled it. But being able to say that I did it shows me as a hiring manager, it shows me that you're willing to dig in. You're willing to come up with ideas. You're willing to be creative in trying to learn stuff versus just taking a certification test. So I look at your alphabet soup. That's what passes the initial screening. And then, obviously if you've got experience, I look at experience, but projects are great. And when it comes to cybersecurity, is that what everyone is primarily geared towards here, cybersecurity, or is it just IT? Cybersecurity, okay. So when it comes to cybersecurity, as a hiring manager, I want somebody that's done some of the cybersecurity projects in labs, right? There's TryHackMe, there's Hack the Box, there's all these online platforms where you can do some of this stuff, right? That's good. But it's actually less interesting to me. I'm more interested in that lab. I'm more interested in you creating that environment. I'm more interested in you saying, oh, well, I structured and did my own business email compromise using a cloud server and this kind of thing. And the reason I say that is because those platforms are really common and everybody does them. And I see candidates that do them, but they still don't have foundational knowledge. So foundational knowledge is really important for what I'm looking for. In my opinion, cybersecurity education paths don't start with a deep enough foundational background, right? So let's say, does anyone know what a broadcast storm is? No? So a broadcast storm is when you have a switch or multiple switches on the network, and the switch is possibly in a loop, or it's broadcasting out, it's broadcast address, it's flooding the network with just saying, hey, I'm rich, I'm cool. Hey, I'm rich, I'm cool, but it does that 1,000,000 times a minute, right? And it floods your network and it brings everything to a crawl. So if you're looking at SIM, does everyone know what SIM is? SIM? Security Information and Event Management. It's, in my opinion, the number one foundation to cybersecurity is understanding SIM. So SIM is the advanced logging or the in-depth logging for everything that happens on your network or everything that's interesting. So if you're looking at SIM and you see all of this stuff and you don't know or can't recognize that it's a broadcast storm, then where are you at, right? So that's why I think you need, or here's another one. Let's say you're doing malicious file monitoring. You're threat hunting. Raise of hands, threat hunting. Know what threat hunting is? Okay. If you're threat hunting, which is basically just scouring daily logs, looking for anything unique or some kind of an anomaly. You're threat hunting and you see this Windows process repeated over and over and over again. If you don't understand what processes run on Windows and how Windows works and how services work, then how can you effectively hunt that threat, right? Or how can you not spin your wheels going down the rabbit hole on a standard DLL when really what it is, it's Windows Update just trying to check in to the update server. And so I think foundational knowledge is important. And so with us, we do have at STACK Cybersecurity, we started the only Michigan Department of Labor certified apprenticeship, cybersecurity apprenticeship. And in that apprenticeship, I've restructured it to a 1 year. It used to be a 2-year apprenticeship, but we've restructured it to a 1-year apprenticeship. And 60% of that apprenticeship is IT work. It's racking servers, changing RAM, changing CPUs, and then understanding RAID, knowing how to build a RAID array. And then it graduates into network support, switch support, understanding VLANs, understanding layers. And then you start getting into endpoint detection and response, managed detection and response, and eventually building SASE networks and investigating incidents via SIM. And so I think it's important that you have that foundation so that you know what you're looking at. So like for us, our apprenticeship, it's a full-time job, and you are essentially working for a lower pay rate because only 25 to 35, 40, whatever % of your effort is actually benefiting the company. The rest is you learning while you're on the job, right? And us investing some of our resources into helping you. And so the right time to do that, when you can afford the time, right? you would have to be going to class at night if you did it while you're in class. And then B is we only select candidates for the apprenticeship that have displayed some sort of foundational. I'm going to teach you a lot of the foundational stuff, right? But what I'm looking for is I'm looking for you showing me that you have tried labs, or you have, hey, I built a VM in Azure. Perfect, that's great, right? I want more than just I sat for a 5-week certification and got my A+ or got my Network Plus. And so, I think once you have shown or built within yourself that you're committed to this learning phase, and you're trying stuff and you're being proactive on your own, and you can afford the time, I think it's a great time to do it. The amount of stuff that we're teaching in our apprenticeship is quite vast. You'll exit our apprenticeship at the end of a year, and you will probably qualify as an entry-level Tier 2 technician, IT support technician, and capable of doing cybersecurity incident response, capable of investigating SIM, and running playbooks and stuff like that. So to me, cybersecurity is a blend of IT support and threat hunting and incident response. There's a lot of different components to it, right? So with our apprenticeship, we probably get 25 or 30 applications a week continually without it even being posted. Sometimes when we post something that we have it'll ramp up to 100 a week. And so there's a big sea of candidates. And a lot of these candidates, I'll see someone that has just, it doesn't matter the job. I don't care, right? I care about showing drive. And so you could be a food worker or a Walmart greeter, and as long as you show drive, it gets me there. But what I need to see is I need to see the drive on your application. I can't just see, I'm a Walmart greeter and here's my cover letter, I really want this, because I get that all the time. And showing drive is not just calling or emailing 15 times a week saying, what's the status? Hey, I really want this. Like, do something, right? That's what I want you all to think about. I want you to do something that illustrates your drive versus just manufacturing it out of contact. That's it. It's do something, as in come up with a lab or come up with an idea. Heck, send us an email and say, hey, I want to prove that I can be creative, have an idea of a test I can take or something I can try. You know what I mean? There's all kinds of ways to do it. The point is you have to do something other than just call, right? You have to establish some sort of presence for your level of effort that you're willing to put into it. And that, to me, that's showing drive. And what it does is it tells me, when we bring you in, it tells me what kind of person you're going to be in the workplace, right? You're somebody that's going to show up early, because that's when you can get time with the senior engineers, because they're willing to talk during that time, or stay a few minutes late, because that's when you get time with people, or we have an entire lab in our environment. I've got 2 racks worth of servers. We own a data center hosting company, so we have all kinds of infrastructure and hardware. It's all there for people to use. So the willingness to stay late and say, hey, can I wipe that server and rebuild it, or can I tear it apart and put it together? You'd be amazed at how little it happens. People just don't do it, right? If people did it, it would be so much more impressive. So showing drive is important, and the drive can give you the experience. If you have experience in IT, that's certainly a leg up. I'm trying to approach this more from the perspective of you don't have any experience in IT, right? And you're trying to get that first thing. So if you say you've built a lab, you have done Try Hack Me, you have done your own SIM investigation, that shows drive. Those are ways that you can get ahead and get your resume seen. So I had example resumes on mine. But an example, what I was basically illustrating, I had a good resume and a bad resume, right? The bad resume didn't have any acronyms on it. It didn't mention Who knows what DNS is? Couple people, but most of you don't. Does that sound? Nod head if you don't. It's okay, right? It's okay if you don't know the stuff. I literally tell people that when I'm interviewing. If you don't know the answer, just say I don't know. It's all right. All I'm trying to do is gauge where you're at so I can tailor the discussion to what matches. DNS is, oh man, it's a home run on interviews. Every time I see DNS, it's the number one thing I do because everybody puts it on their resume. Do any of you, and you don't have to show your hands because I'm not trying to call people out, do any of you have something like DNS on your resume, but you really just have had exposure, but you really don't know it? Maybe? Just ask yourself that. Because I see it a lot. But DNS is domain naming system, and it's the foundation of the internet. So easiest description is you go to eBay, you type ebay.com. But really what you're doing is you're going to an IP address. You're going to an addressable location on the internet. DNS is what resolves the name to the IP address. In its most, think phone book, USPS. So all of us have addresses to our house, right? So you have a name and address, and the USPS is the DNS system, right? So they kind of make that correlation between the two. Yeah, so an A record is a host. It is a person. You are 192.168.1.1, and it's, Charlene. Charlene is your A record. Charlene is 192.168.1.1. MX record is a mail exchanger. So when you try to send email to another company, you're going to go out to DNS and you're going to query the name servers, which are the holders of the database in the forwarding database, right? So the name servers are going to say, you want to send an email to STACK Cybersecurity. So the first thing it does is it says, this is how DNS works. It says, okay, well, I need to know who STACK Cybersecurity is. So I'm going to go out to the internet, to DNS. I'm going to look at the name servers, and I'm going to ask if they know. They're going to say, yep, I've queried the DNS database, and mail.stackcybersecurity is their MX record. It's your mail exchanger record. Sometimes it's smtp.stackcyber, or, they become more obfuscated as time has gone along. So it might be, M1 for mail 1 or something like that. That's your MX record. And so you've got host record as an individual machine. Mail exchanger points to a mail server. And your name servers are your database. They hold a copy of the database. And that database is replicated throughout the internet. So if you build a website and you say it's www is a CNAME. It's an alias. It's just a common name. www is the common name. Doesn't mean internet. I could say wtv.ebay.com and make that a website, and make that as long as I build a CNAME record that says it points to this address, right? And so forgot what I was saying. So when with DNS, you've got your name servers, they look out there and forward. So like when you make this website and you say you want to change it from www to wtw, you update that DNS. Let's say we do that here in Michigan, data centers in Atlanta. Someone in California may still be going to the old site, because you have to wait for all the DNS servers. You tell me, now I tell him, now I tell her, now I tell them, all of this. It has to propagate throughout the internet. So there's a delay, there's a time to live on those records. So that's DNS. There's a lot to it, but it's really cool, because it's actually how everything works, how everything relates from what we know as common language to, internet addressing. You could take an hour and compile a list of the 20 most common acronyms, the 20 most common nuggets of IT and cybersecurity. And you could make that list and then spend an hour on each of those things and truly study that stuff on your own. And you can get so much further, right? You can put all of that stuff on your resume and say, hey, I don't have real world experience, but I've studied this extensively and happy to try and explain to you what I know, or ask me if I understand it, right? I'm looking for you just to understand it. It gives me a foundation. You could go through and even just looking at a job post, looking at one of our job posts and looking at what I'm asking you to know, compile that list of that stuff and then just dig into it. It's all super easy, right? MDR is one of the biggest things you would look for in a cybersecurity. MDR stands for Managed Detection and Response. So EDR is Endpoint Detection and Response. Think next-gen antivirus. So antivirus is old and antiquated. Antivirus was reactionary. So you got the software on your computer, and then once a week, it would download the definitions from the parent server, right? And the definitions were, okay, these are the viruses that we currently know about, right? And so when there was a 0 day, anyone know what a 0 day is? Yep. So when there was a 0 day, your antivirus software was dumb. It didn't know anything. EDR is next-gen antivirus, and so EDR uses AI and more predictive, software engineering to try and assume that it knows what's happening versus waiting on a definition database, a definition file. And so EDR takes antivirus and adds basically AI and in learning, machine learning. MDR builds on top of EDR. So MDR now takes that machine learning and it then takes action. So I can configure MDR to go as far as isolate a machine. If someone's computer is all of a sudden starting to send out a bunch of packets and flood the network, MDR can automatically kill that network connection and isolate the machine. So it's using EDR, making a decision, and then acting on the decision. So SIM, another thing that I mentioned, that's cybersecurity centric mostly. SIM is this advanced logging. So what it does is it takes logs from everything you configure, but imagine like everything on the network. And so I always kind of tell the story. When you got up this morning, it records how far you flicked the covers. It records how long it took you to put your shoes on. It records how many steps you took to the bathroom. It records how many times you brushed your teeth. It records how long you spent brushing your teeth. And it records how many ounces your coffee is, right? So it's everything that's happening, it's logging all of this, and it's pumping all of this into a data lake. And so like for us, as an IT company that provides services to many others, we're looking at that data lake across all of our clients. But even if you're one organization, all of your data is going into this data lake. And then you use SIM to query the data lake. So you may say, if I'm threat hunting and I'm just arbitrarily looking at logs, you may say, you know what, I want to see if there's been any executables run in the last 3 days that are stored in the Windows directory. So you can write that query, and then it's going to look at every computer, every log, everything on the network that it has recorded, and it's going to give you that information. And that's how you threat hunt. You're looking through that. You may say, hey, I want to look for any network traffic that has had a successful authentication through the firewall that's coming from Germany. So you can use SIM to query all of those logs to do that. And so SIM is the lifeblood of how you figure out and how you threat hunt, how you investigate. If we have a business email compromise, does everyone know what a BEC is? Yeah? No? Business email compromise is when a threat actor gains access to your email, to your mailbox, or to your executive's mailbox. Typically it's executive that they go after. And then they peruse that mailbox and look for information. They may harvest contacts. They may redirect messages where they can communicate with other people like vendors or payables, in a malicious manner. That's how they do that. So they typically do that by sending you a link and getting you to click the link. They may do it with a MFA token harvest, which is some of the things that we have shown. In our apprenticeship program, we had our apprentices perform a business email compromise live. They spent, a lot of time practicing it, but it's great, great experience. It's stuff that you can do. So here's how I did it. Business email compromise. It's the #1 most common cybersecurity breach or compromise that you'll find, in my opinion. And so I did it. I did it myself. I spent $7 on a domain name. And in this case, I did, is everybody familiar with 365? Office 365? So when you log into Windows online, you're at, it's not Microsoft.com, right? It's like M365 or whatever. So I registered a domain called sitesecure.m365.com. Seems legit. Cost me $7. Then I rented 2 virtual servers, actually 1 virtual server. I did 2, but I only needed the 1. This cost me, I think, around $75 to $100 for a year. I think it was like $10 a month, $8 a month for a virtual server. Then on that virtual server, I downloaded software called Evil Jinx. Anyone heard of Evil Jinx? Evil Jinx is common cybersecurity malicious software that's out there that you can just pull down. And what it does is it stands up a mail server. It stands up a web server. And not a mail server, I'm sorry. It just stands up a web server. And then it creates these things called fishlets. And this stuff is all, anybody in this room could do this week and have it done by Monday morning. It's that easy. The instructions are out there. I'll share them with you. So these fishlets are all out there for download. You can find an M365 fishlet, which is the Microsoft login, where you put in your credentials. Google fishlet, LinkedIn fishlet. All you have to do is say, I want to enable the LinkedIn fishlet, and then it's going to give you a little, kind of like a tiny URL looking thing. And that fishlet is out there living on your Evil Jinx server live. It's just sitting there. Now you can bring up your Evil Jinx console and just wait. But ideally what you'll do is you'll send an email to someone that says, hey, check out this cool video. And the video may go to your YouTube. Oh, but you got to sign into YouTube, right? Happens all the time. We're used to it. So what do? You sign into YouTube. And I just captured your password in real time, right? But you have MFA. Who knows what MFA is? Right? The text message or the phone authenticator. Let's say the phone authenticator. You have MFA, so you're protected. Okay, waiting. Oh, okay. Thank you for your MFA token. I just took it. It's sitting on my Evil Jinx server. Now I can copy that token, bring up a web browser. Firefox is the best one to do. I can go to my cookies, or file import, and I can import a cookie, and I can paste your token into that cookie, and then I can go to youtube.com, and it doesn't even ask me to log in, because I still have your authentication token. I'm just in your YouTube now. It's that easy, right? And so we show this, we simulate this. It's probably on it's on our YouTube channel.
And don't forget to ask everyone to subscribe.
Yes, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. It's on our YouTube channel, and also if you reach out to me, I'll send you the information. A really great cybersecurity guy named Ben Jones put this together. We replicated what he did. I didn't reinvent the wheel. There's no need to. All the information's out there, right? This is all stuff that you can do. So when you're in your interview and you're trying to show drive, show motivation, you can say, well, I stood up a BEC. Oh, really? What'd you do? Well, I rented a couple of VMs on, hostcloud.com, and I bought a little Microsoft, or I bought a 365 account, registered a domain, and then I simulated sending an attack. And I actually sent it to my parents to see if they would click, and they did. And so I captured my parents' credentials. That shows a lot of drive, right? That shows motivation. So the group exercise was I just wanted to listen to what you have on your resume and talk about some of that stuff and talk about the detail. Now, many of you may not have a lot of this, but where I'm at in hiring, I see it probably with entry-level resumes with tier 1 support or people coming right out of school or in school, probably 85% of the time I'll look at your resume and I'll quiz you on what's on it, and most people, 85% of the time, they fail. They don't know the stuff. So that's kind of what I wanted to really drive home, is load your resume up with lots of great alphabet soup, but just know it. It's not hard to know it. You can just put the time into studying EDR. It'll only take you an hour or 3 to really understand everything about EDR. You just have to really know what to dig into, right? And so in cybersecurity, in fact, our platform that we sell, we sell cybersecurity and IT support services. And so we would go to a business and say, for all of your users, we're going to do Windows patching, Windows updates, we're going to run EDR, we're going to run MDR, we have a 24/7 SOC behind that. We're going to build a SASE network to protect your stuff. We're also going to include a firewall where we're running IPS and IDS. And we are going to do user security and awareness training. We're going to run phishing campaigns. We're going to do tabletop exercises. We're going to, what else do we have? That's the bulk of it. You know, we're going to run SIM. So you could look at that and say, this is all the stuff I need to know. And there's your checklist, right? And so you can do that alongside of what you're learning. Because a lot of what you're learning in class is, you know, you're also learning how to communicate. And you're also learning how to develop your resume and stuff like that. I'm just looking at the tech side. I hire tech people. And I look for people that either show me they understand tech, they show me they're interested in tech, or they show me how much they want one of those two. I don't care if you have a single cert. So, it surprises you?
And you can have a GED. You don't even need a high school diploma to work. We don't care.
Yeah, I don't care. I couldn't tell you, aside from Amelia, since it had a financial impact, I couldn't tell you where any of my employees went to college. I don't care. It's irrelevant, right? It's great that you went because I understand college brings a lot to the table. It teaches you communication, it teaches you professionalism, it gives you foundation for additional learning, stuff like that. But in IT, in tech, I just care about your drive and how much, and whether or not you understand IT. That's the key. You have to understand it because I can teach you, I can put you in a real world environment and teach you all of those things that I just listed off in a week, and you'll be good at it. By the end of 3 months, you'll be good at it, right? So you need, what college is doing is college is giving you the foundation to get the interview, to get the experience. I don't know what certifications any of my people have.
What does everyone on staff have in common? The only thing I know is that every single one of them is a gamer. And that is something that Rich asks in the interview.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I do ask you that. You know why? Because if you tell me you're a gamer, oh, okay, what kind of rig do you have? Oh, well, I've got a GeForce, 66,500 and 77 terabytes of RAM and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, you get it, right? That's what I'm looking for. I like gamers because gamers are always showing drive to understand their systems and to make them better, right? Certifications do reiterate that you have some fundamentals, some foundation, right? But I don't even send my people to certification that are employees. I push back. Tracy sends them, but I push back because I don't care if you have a certification. So I'm watching what you're doing, and if I see you can stand up a firewall from scratch in 4 hours, I don't care if you're certified. You know more than what the certification is going to do for you, right? We're an experience-based shop, and in any IT environment, experience is going to be everything, right? I had my first job, I had a couple certifications. My certification track didn't go well. Well, actually, that's probably interesting. So I was a career changer. In 2001, prior to 2001, I was a mechanic. I used to paint cars, paint trucks, and I did body work, and I worked on cars. And then later, I got a job working for a racing team. I worked for Roush Racing. And I was like on the pit crew, right? That's a career in itself. I was on TV on the weekends, putting the gas in the thing and, and doing all the racing stuff. And then I decided I wanted to change careers, which I think some people in this room are probably doing. And so I took, at the time, back in 01, it was MCSE. Does anybody know what that is? It's antiquated. Microsoft Certified Systems Engineer. Get your MCSE and earn $65,500 a year. That was the pitch. And so I took a 7-week training course. I took all the classes. 9/11 happened while we were in class. That's why I always remember it so well. And after that, you have to still go take your tests on your own. This is the thing about certifications, right? You can spend $5,000 on a 6-week course to teach you Network Plus, but you still have to go read the book for 50 hours to pass it. It doesn't work. And so I took 7 weeks worth of courses, and then I started with my Windows certification. So to get your MCSE, you have to pass 7 Microsoft Windows certifications. Nowadays, well, they moved it from MCSE to MCITP, and now it's Microsoft Certified Professional. And then they have, server infrastructure designation, I think. I don't even know. I don't care. It doesn't mean anything. So the point is, I took 7-week class. I understood IT. I passed my Windows Server test. I passed my Windows Professional and Workstation test. Next one was Active Directory. I failed it. Each of these tests, I spent a minimum of 40 to 50 hours at Barnes & Noble for free, reading the books. I'd go there and read the books, the big, thick books. So I spent 50 hours on top of taking the live training, and I still couldn't pass the test. But I got a job. I got a job making $12 an hour for a law firm as a junior assistant help desk. And then from there, my drive took over. My thirst to understand more, to learn more, to do more. I had never rebooted a server, right? Now I'm working in this environment and we have all these servers. I don't even know how to reboot it. I know you go to start and reboot, but do I need to make sure people are off? I didn't have any of that foundation. But I just did it. I practiced it. I tried it. When the opportunity was to do it, I was there. Can I watch? And in that organization, we had a network administrator. He was my senior. And after 4 months, he worked for me. And then after 6 months, he no longer worked for me because he was just an anchor. He didn't know what he was doing. And so in 6 months' time, I was running a network with 200 employees and 12 servers and a storage array with fabric attachment. And I just took off from there. I was constantly digging in and just showing my drive. That's what did it. That's what did it. I don't know why I was going down that road, but yeah, it's all about certification. So I couldn't even pass the certification exam, but I could run a network because I just did it, right? You figure it out. It's easier to figure it out than it is to read a book and learn it. And I'm not trying to harp on being in school. I'm just talking about certifications and the extra effort those take. I finally got my MCITP, because MCSE had been retired, 12 years after, so it was what was it? That was 01, so it was 2015 when I finally got a certification. And then I only took it because I felt like I needed it for credibility with clients and with programs that we were trying to get involved with. But I never studied for it. I just went and took it. I've never had clients ask me who has what certifications. They don't care. They just want business reputation. They want to know that you know the stuff. And, from a sales perspective, when I sit down in front of a prospective client, You know, my sales approach is very different. I'm not a salesperson. I'm a technical person. So I just come out and I just alphabet soup, and you know, I'm confident and I know what I'm talking about, and it's the stuff that they know they need, and it usually works. I think I would like to see the variety of small projects. You could have projects that take you a week, you know, or 3 or 4 days. If it's interesting to me, and again, it was on the resumes I had, you know, stood up. So when I look at a resume, I'm looking through all of the words and I'm picking out things like, oh, he did Proxmox. Oh, Windows Hyper-V. Oh, DHCP. Oh, expanded DHCP scope. You know, I'm just picking out keywords of this stuff. And so if you were to say, yeah, I've stood up a 3-server Proxmox cluster and created VMs. That's it. That's the project. You could have that project done by the end of the day tomorrow, assuming you had 3 computers. You know, you could do it on one. You could stand up Proxmox on one. Proxmox is a virtualization platform, KVM, and it's free. You can just download it. You know, Windows you got to pay for. VMware, I think there's free versions of VMware too. Proxmox is easier. It's got a great GUI. It's web-based. I mean, it just works. I have a Proxmox cluster of about 35 servers. They've literally been powered up, with the exception of one day when we moved them from one location to another. They've been powered up for 8 years. And they just work. And that's a cool environment to play around in. You know, building networks is fun. So you have to really think about whether you're in IT, looking at IT, or cybersecurity, any of these, there's always small niche specialties within them. Do you want to be a threat hunter? Right? So figure out what these different niches are, and I can tell you a few that I know of. And then you have to, same thing with the alphabet soup, the acronyms. You have to kind of dig in and make sure that's what you want to do. Because ultimately, what I'm looking for is again, drive, motivation, and all of that comes with you doing something you love. I've been at IT for 20 years and was formerly a mechanic, and I love working on stuff. I was working on my snowmobile last night. Look, I carved up my hand trying to install a bolt. I like working on stuff, but I switched to IT because I thought it was interesting. So in 20 years, it's never felt like I'm working. I work, I don't know, anywhere from 50 to 80 hours a week, depending on the week, and I do it because I love it. To me, it's not work. It's not hard, right? That's what I want. I want to figure out your passion for what you're doing. And the best way to have the best passion is to understand what you're choosing to do and make sure you know all the facets of what it entails. Like threat hunting, to me, I wouldn't be a threat hunter. I think it's boring. You know, that's why I chose not to be a network engineer. A network engineer is looking at a black screen with code, just like you would see in the movies, you know, and that's it. Say, hey, this switch is acting up. Oh, okay, hold on a minute. And you're just looking at lines of code. Oh, the switch is doing this, and the port's flapping, and it's got this much egress traffic. It's just like, ugh, I don't want to do that. And threat hunting is similar. I don't want to look at 37,000 lines of the exact same thing, except for the last little digit is changed, and I have to just catch it. To me, that's not interesting. To me, what's interesting is sitting at someone's desktop and making their day better. Right? Fixing a problem that they're having, or stopping a threat. You know, pen testing is a big one. Like pen testing, a lot of people say, oh, I want to do pen testing because the movies make it look really cool. It's a lot of research. It's a lot of documentation, you know. So just have to kind of dig into what these are. Make sure you love it, because that's how you're going to get that drive and that passion and that motivation, because you're doing something that's really cool. Yes?
So, I know earlier you were talking about EDR and NDR, right? And how one is now using AI as a part of how it is more proactive. And you also mentioned earlier how I think the Microsoft program that you were learning initially, or like the thing you were studying, is now antiquated or just not used as much. As students, or just like people who are entering the field, try to start learning different things or maybe getting experience in different areas, what is like an area of cybersecurity or an IT that you think is moving towards being either fully or majority AI like based versus what is an area that as like a human you can continue to learn that would like set you apart or like make you more valuable? If that makes sense. I don't know.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think that threat hunting is going to be very AI centric, right? Because you can use AI to scan those 37,000 lines a lot faster than what I can do, right? So AI is going to have an impact there. But when AI has the anomaly, it's still too dumb to do something with it, right? Unless we tell it what to do. So incident response is important. You know, what you do. So if I say, hey, this computer has a virus, understanding what you do from there would be beneficial. Anywhere you have, you know, so the other thing about threat hunting and even SIM is there's another acronym called SOAR, which is, you know, orchestration and response. I don't know, what is the SO? Security, automation, orchestration, and yeah, so it's automation of response. So I can configure in my software SOAR and say, when I see a BEC, isolate the computer. Or when I see a BEC, disconnect the Microsoft Graph API connection and log it out and reset the password and reset the MFA token. And it can do that stuff for me, right? But beyond that, you still have to think about the human interaction. I don't think AI is, it's a long ways away from being good enough to replace our decision making. So understanding how you can find career nuggets or career corners of a career where you can make decisions, you know. Yeah. I think that's all I have for slides. You know, I think our interviews are, you know, again, very technical. So I look at what you say you can do, and then I just say, hey, let's go through it, right? A common question I say is, for an entry-level technician, Sandy is working on her computer in the office. We've got 15 computers on the network, or 1,500, whatever. And a couple hours ago, she could print no problem. Everything was working great. And now, when she goes to print, she has no printers. They're just all gone. You know, she can get on the internet. You know, she can still get email. So what's the first thing you would look at? And then I just want you to talk me through your troubleshooting mind. Talk me through how you approach it. Right? Ultimately, the answer I'm looking for is the print spooler is stopped. Right? So if you can't get to the printer, as you go to printers and the printers aren't there, then the first thing you do is check services. The service has to be running for the printers to show up. Yes?
How long would you say that an entry-level applicant should have their resume be? I am in social sciences, and I've always heard, you know, 1 page absolute maximum. But how long would you say that resumes can be when it's a tech position?
I don't care how long a resume is. I mean, I guess there probably would be a threshold. If it was 17 pages, I might start to, you know, I probably wouldn't make it past the second one. Right? So, but I'm kind of unique. I process or choose not to process. If I look at a page and it's got too many words, I'm like, yeah, I'm not doing that. And I just move on. So I think 1 to 2 pages for an entry-level tech, 1 page is enough. But I wouldn't say there's a hard, fast rule, not for me. If it's 2 or 3 or 4 pages, I'm okay with that. But I think realistically, 2 pages is probably enough. The great thing about Alphabet Soup is it condenses really well. You know, it's the job market is, I say the job market's tough. It's tough for you all to find jobs. It's tough for me to find people that I feel are qualified for the job. Now, what I do in our business is a little bit unique. If you really want experience, whether it's cybersecurity or general IT support, Even software development, like looking to consultancies is where you get a lot. So us as a managed service provider versus, let's say, Henry Ford. So you work for Henry Ford Community College and you're in the IT department, right? So you get one AV system, you get basically one type of firewall. You may have 5 campuses, but you got 5 firewalls. You've got so many users, and that's it. That's what you support, day in, day out. That's what you support. With us, we support 300 firewalls. We support, 2,000 users. We have 17 different kinds of switches, and you know what I mean? Like, there's more volume in what we're doing. So, I'll get a candidate all the time. Firewalls are important. Firewalls are tricky, and they're detailed, and they're important, right? And so what I do, I want to know when people have done firewalls. Well, entry level, you're not getting much exposure to a firewall, right? Especially a production firewall or one that has production capability. And when you're working for a singular environment, depending on the size of the environment, let's say you're at Henry Ford Community College, unless you're the senior network engineer, you're not going to touch the firewall. I see a lot. People say they have the firewall. Oh, well, I was just part of a team that managed the firewall. Okay, what rules did you configure? Well, I've never configured any of the rules. I just watched them do it. It's not good enough. Don't tell me you know a firewall. Literally had that last week. It's all the time. And so looking to a company like us, you're going to get a year with a company, a managed service provider, or a managed security service provider. A year with that company would equate to probably 3 to 4 years of regular old on-the-job experience. Because I have tier 1 and tier 2 engineers that configure firewalls every week. Production firewalls. They troubleshoot them every week. So it's just a lot of opportunity in those types of environment. I'm going to ask you about it, right? And that's the thing. Like, there isn't that much that I haven't seen or done because I've been in that MSP consulting for 20 years. So I've worked on thousands of networks, right? And so I'm going to ask you questions about it. And if you can answer them or at least tell me what you did, then I know you did it. So I just want to know you did it. I also don't mind seeing a YouTube channel where you've stood this up and said, here's where I'm doing, try and hack the box. Maybe you recorded it. Well, Taylor's a great example. I have an employee now. She didn't have any documented IT experience, and she was a server at a restaurant, Coney, I think. Server at a Coney Island. But you know what she did? She built a website specifically for her application. And it talked about, the website had things that she's done, examples of what she's created. Here's a summary. I built this VM and I did this and this, and it was all in a website that she built for me. I hired her. I didn't even care if she didn't have any experience because she showed me that she knows how to do it, and I can work with that, right? I just got to know what I can work with. So YouTube channel. There's another good thing that I'm going to do. So if you apply to a job for me, I'm going to look at your LinkedIn, right? And on your LinkedIn, I'm going to look at your posts. I want to know what you've posted, what you've responded to. And I'm also going to look at your Facebook or your Instagram, all of that stuff. I basically crawl you like a creeper because it tells me all kinds of stuff, right? And I got to know what I'm getting into, right? I'm investing, especially for an entry-level position, I'm investing my time. I'm investing the company's time. You're putting all this information out there for me to evaluate you, so I'm going to use it, right? That's my project. And so think about how you use all of your socials or whatever you want to call it, all of your mediums, your platforms for communication. Think about what you're saying. I researched a candidate, I don't know, yesterday or the day before, this week. And this person applied for the tier 1 job that we had and didn't have a ton of experience, but just a couple of nuggets, Oh, I stood up a Hyper-V environment, or something. Just a couple small nuggets that maybe say, okay, let me check this person. So then I look at LinkedIn and I see their LinkedIn profile. It all matches the resume. That's great. Well, what have they said in their posts? Oh, well, there's this tech thing and they reposted it, and there's this tech thing and they commented on it, and there's this tech thing that they find interesting. Okay, what's on Facebook? Oh, Facebook is like, here I am, in the data center. This person didn't have data center experience on their resume, but here I am in the data center. I love this place. It's just amazing. Hey, everyone. To me, this person's got drive. This person's excited about being in that environment, and it made me interview them, right? So a lot of different channels. Think about the things, almost like creating your IT drive brand, right? Your IT motivation brand. Use all of that stuff, because a lot of employers check it. They do. I can't really think of any key mistakes where I've had a big misstep in my career. I think it's gone fine. I would say some lessons learned that I could share that I may have gotten right was build relationships with people, and especially with your social platforms. I'm not saying go follow Jeff Bezos. It's not going to do you any good. But maybe you follow some local business owner, that has a software development firm in Ann Arbor. And then you try and engage with them. Just try and make your name known. So that when I look, I can see that, oh, well, you commented on so-and-so's post. That shows that you're following them and you're interested, So building relationships, that's what started me. And
building on that, as far as the relationships, do you think it would be important for, students to join organizations like GTIA? Are you familiar with any of those types of groups that have groups? Like CompTIA broke into two, and there's GTIA, there's, I don't even know, is it information security?
no, I don't think those are super beneficial.
Like networking in those groups would be good?
So GTIA is a big national organization, right? Global, yes, exactly. Probably not, but there's also, what's it? There's like local meetup groups. It's another great point. Yeah, there's one called Detroit IT Meetup, and it's just people that show up at a bar at 5 o'clock. They have cocktails, and hey, I'm Rich. I like to do coding or gaming or whatever. They just talk. You're just building relationships. You never know who you're going to stumble across there. And that's also another thing that I notice when I'm creeping on you and your socials. I'm going to notice that you go to that kind of stuff. So building relationships, just try and think locally, right? Don't try and build a relationship with Bill Gates. Try and build a relationship with, a senior IT manager with Bedrock or something like that. Just get a little bit more local, build relationships, follow them, show interest in what they're doing, and try and replicate what they're doing. Build labs, build tests, try stuff, document what you're trying. And when I say document it, I'm not saying write a report, I'm saying record a YouTube video of it, or something like that. Or record a video of you talking about what you did and how much it blew your mind, or any of that stuff. Just document your journey, because all of that is what makes you all have to fight to be noticed on the screening, right? When you get the interview, all I care about is your drive and ambition. If you show me that you have drive, I can work with that. We can go a long ways. If you show up for the interview and you don't have drive, and gosh, I've got some stories there. I was interviewing a guy one time, and he pulled out a giant milk jug full of water, and he just started chugging it while I was talking. It's just like, he just didn't care. He was just doing this to do it, right? So you can sense that when you're interviewing people, whether they care about what they're doing. what you're wearing when you know, even though it's a remote interview, a lot of times I'll interview on Teams. You don't have to go overboard, but I would say, you know, a t-shirt is not good enough. Like, show you care, right? You're trying to put a best foot forward. You don't have to wear a jacket. I don't care if people wear jackets. I don't care if people wear ties. I just care that they didn't look like they were in bed 17 seconds ago. You know, so find a little bit of a balance in how you represent yourself, how you carry yourself, how you are sitting for the interview, whether you're sitting up, slouching, engaged in what the person's saying, or if you're just, you know, doing something else, or, you know, make sure your color, your lighting is right for the video. A lot of places are going to do a video interview first, and or a phone interview. And so just got to make sure all of that stuff has to be right. You're fighting to get the next step, and all of it is going to be on your drive, your motivation, your attitude, your ambition, and your presentation. Because you just don't have all the content. But if you have all of that other stuff, the content doesn't matter, because now I know I have something I could work with. Yeah, that's kind of all I have. I might be up against the... Okay. Yeah, and you know, I guess, you know, do you all think about, real quick, I just want to make sure they understand, like, pay scales for different stuff, what your expectations are. I think that's another thing where we really, I struggle with this, right? As a business owner, I have a lot of people I've been paying over the years, and when I interview someone for a tier 1 role, there's two things that I don't like. One is when they say, well, I've done all of the research, and you know, Glassdoor says I should be getting, you know, between 85 and 92 for this job. I'm like, but you don't know anything. You know, how is that realistic, right? So I would approach it as, if you want the job, if you want the experience, you have to invest in that. I'm not saying you have to work for pennies. We all want to make as much as we can make, but you have to understand what you're bringing to the table and be realistic about your ask. You know, to me, what I love is the person that says, I'll take anything. I just want the opportunity to show myself. You know what I do? I pay them a fair wage. I pay them right in the scale of what it is. I don't try and shortcut people. I don't say, oh, this person didn't even say they care. I'm gonna see if I can pay them $6 an hour. I don't do that. I pay you a fair wage. What I want is to know that you have the drive. It doesn't matter. Versus someone that says, well, even though I don't have experience, all my online research says I should be getting this, so that's what I want. You know, so just part of understanding the role, the niche of what you're doing, just set realistic expectations. Even answer that with, you know, I'm open. The position is the most important thing to me. What is the scale? Where do you feel like I would land? Just make it a conversation. If they're not the fit, they're not the fit. You have to judge them too. Okay, thank you. If you have any other follow-up questions, just send me an email. Okay, thanks.